Hello, welcome back. And we're talking about ABM today, one of my favorite topics. And I'm delighted to have Fiona joining me because it's also one of her favorite topics. And what we're covering with ABM is how to really take it from that intent. So say you're using Sixth Sense and you're getting those accounts that would be just at the right point for you to start engaging, and how you actually turn that into income, because I think it's about 28% of those engaged accounts never really progress through the funnel. And so we're here today talking about the combination of how content with LinkedIn can help to deliver that income. And so thank you, Fiona, for joining us today. And you also work with B2B tech companies and professional services, and very often they're selling to pretty complex deals, to pretty complicated enterprise businesses. So I know that we're working with clients with exactly the same challenges, and it's where content really connects with LinkedIn that we want to be talking about today. Now, just as before Fiona introduces herself, I'd love to hear, is there anybody listening that is ABM curious? Sort of where are you on your ABM journey? Have you really nailed the research piece? Are you using Sixth Sense? Have you got your sales team all ready to go with your strategic accounts? And as we go through, please feel free to put any questions into the comments. We'll see them. We will answer those live. And our big promise today is for you to walk away at the end of today's LinkedIn Live with a bit of a blueprint on how you go from intent through the content and LinkedIn journey through to income and revenue. Anyway, that was quite a long introduction from me there, Fiona. Sorry to keep you waiting. Would you like to introduce yourself and why the content and LinkedIn works really well together, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Laura. So I'm Fiona, the Client Services Director over here at Collective Content. And together with Pitch One-to-One, we have an offering that specialises in helping companies with their ABM. So this is around specifically creating content and then laser targeting that content to buyers via LinkedIn. So on our collective journeys, we have found that a lot of companies out there are really struggling with mid-funnel. This is both at the content level as well as connecting with buyers on a personal level as well. As I'm sure most of you will be aware, but mid-funnel content requires striking that very delicate balance between educating, but without being overly salesy. And it requires a nuanced understanding of the buyer's needs at this mid-funnel stage. The good news, however, is that LinkedIn is brilliant for mid-funnel marketing. Something that I always find really useful when embarking on ABM via LinkedIn is going back to basics and thinking about the psychology of your buyer, as well as their expectations, their needs, and their mind state when they're viewing a platform, in this case, LinkedIn. So, you've probably done your top of funnel awareness content through advertising, whatever it might be. So your audience is aware that they have a problem or a need that requires solving. They're actively in the market for a solution. But as humans, we want to buy from people we trust. So when content is shared by connections or people that we have mutual connections with on LinkedIn, that suggests, that you're not a total stranger. And so inherently, there's a bit of trust there already.
Yeah. And I think it's just worth maybe a bit of a recap, just a clarification, check we're all on the same page, is what do we mean by mid-funnel content?
So yeah, mid-funnel is really, so you've got your top of funnel, which is awareness, mid, which is your education and consideration, and you're really trying to pull people through to the bottom of funnel to actually convert them to make that decision.
Yeah. And I love that what you're saying about LinkedIn being mid-funnel, even just from a data perspective, we have found that if you're having an inbox conversation with somebody, of all of the content shares conversations that involve content that we might have in that inbox. Things like case studies have always performed really well, or something where people will get value from it. And a LinkedIn Live, for example, this is mid-funnel content in itself, isn't it? I certainly find that there are more people that know us that come, that, you know, it sort of ratifies, and they learn and they share with their colleagues. You know, it's that sort of content, isn't it, that helps people to justify the spend and share it and get some buy-in.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, ABM works, it really works so well on LinkedIn, and we'll always think about the complete funnel though. So a multi-channel approach is usually adopted for through the funnel marketing activities, and we're massive advocates of that, obviously. The thing that we think about is that some content works really well on a website or maybe a content hub. Some might work really well being promoted via email as part of a nurture strand. And advertising, which I mentioned just now, is really great for top of funnel. So your optimal mix is absolutely going to be dependent on your goals and your strategy as well.
Yeah. When we're talking to people about their ABM campaigns, and when I ask, you know, what are you doing in terms of LinkedIn? And I'm sure that you're having similar conversations as well, Fiona, is that I think sometimes there can be a little bit of a breakdown where marketers want their salespeople to share the content on LinkedIn. Salespeople might not be marketing themselves as well as marketers might like them to. And so you're really then stuck in a situation where the content's coming out through the company page, which we know is challenging to get the reach. And then it's going out through advertising. And I do think that, as you say, the top of funnel through advertising, it's not an either or, is it? It's not like, oh, do I do a paid campaign on LinkedIn or do I do an organic campaign on LinkedIn? The mix of both of those, particularly when you think about the different stages the buyers might be in the journey, is really important. And the thing that we talk to our clients about is, how can you get the authors of the content, the subject matter experts, to be also sharing that on LinkedIn, so that you're not over reliant on the salespeople. It just goes a lot further, you know, and it's really trusted, and it's of course the short form version of the longer content piece that they may have produced for their website. But being able to get the traction and the trust through the people who are the spokespeople, the people, the authors, and then afterwards getting the salespeople to maybe repost that and connect to the same people as the subject matter experts have. That's a way that you can be doing an organic campaign. So just to clarify, your subject matter experts are probably more likely to get that connection in your target account, particularly if they find their own pathway. Somebody might have an ex-colleague, peer-to-peer, and so on. Once they're connected, they can then expand into that account. And then afterwards, the salespeople can get in touch, knowing that they have touched that content that's come through their experts.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard, which is why, you know, Laura and I work together on this, because, you know, if you're trying to do this internally, it's an orchestration of many people. And I think that a lot of the responsibility really, it often lies with the sales team. But frankly, some of the sales team we hear from our clients don't feel comfortable, and they need scripts and so forth, which is completely understandable. But so then it often lands back in the laps of the marketing team to sort of push this through. The other thing to say is it is time consuming. Again, that's why, you know, we're in existence with this service offering. Just something else to think about is what content works well on LinkedIn at the mid-funnel level, and what is likely to go down well when it's shared via personal profiles to your target audience. So the key to LinkedIn is always short and valuable. So, you know, if you're going to take two things away from the type of content, short and valuable. Just taking a little bit of a step back, we're massive fans of sweating an asset to maximize your time and money investment. So, for example, we'll often create a paper or an ebook. And when we're doing that, we'll be considering how that is cut into shorter assets to support a LinkedIn ABM campaign. So within your ebook or paper, you could have an ROI calculator, for example. That also works really nicely as a standalone tool that can be pushed out via LinkedIn messaging. So, for example, if you've got a SaaS platform and you're targeting a specific sector, maybe it's hospitality, maybe it's recruitment, whatever it may be, provide an intuitive calculator so your buyer can plug some figures in and see the impact there and then. So, I mean, who wouldn't, you know, enjoy seeing that without having to have a sales conversation there and then? Infographics are brilliant because obviously these visual elements work really nicely in ebooks. They also provide excellent standalone assets. They're very shareable. They're quick to skim. They're visually stunning. You can very quickly show your buyer what their problem is and how you can solve it for them. And then case studies are also brilliant because they're very relatable. So people love reading case studies. They're even more powerful when shared via a personal profile on LinkedIn. It almost comes across as a bit of a recommendation there. And case studies have loads of snippets that you can pull out, including, you know, metrics and customer quotes. So really, we try and get inside the head of the buyer. So when they see a LinkedIn message with a piece of content, they're thinking, so what? What's in it for me? So got to make sure the targeting and messaging is 100% in sync, and tell them in the first few words of the message, you know, what the value is to them, so they carry on reading.
I'm imagining those beautiful infographics being reposted as well, and also saved. You know, any post that you put out that is, say, you know, something that people would want to save or repost to their network, it's just going to do so much better in the feed. And then what that means once the algorithm catches it is it's seen by more of your network. And that's great if you have connected with that target account that you want to see that particular post. And this is why it just works so beautifully together. I think also I was it was about December last year that I was reading a Momentum ITSMA report about ABM. And there were a couple of things that were pretty interesting there. And one of them was that if you're wanting to, it was basically comparing those that are doing ABM, and it's a full program, that are really successful versus the laggards. So those that are not doing as well. And one of the things that it said is that the most successful ABM campaigns, relationships are built across the team. It's not just one salesperson or one key account manager that you've got that relationship with. And that's where incorporating more of your team, sharing the content, is really important for your ABM. But the other thing that it was saying was, I've actually forgotten for a moment.
Well, it's about not just considering prospecting as part of your ABM
campaign. I know we were talking about that earlier. Yeah, thank you. So those that focus on net new, and it's so easy to do that, to just be focusing on, this is a brand new shiny account. But actually, if you incorporate into your ABM existing clients and being able to use it for retention as well as client growth, but also lapsed clients as well. So reviving those accounts from the dead and really getting them going again. They're things to consider as well. The beauty with lapsed clients is you know them rather well, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, just going back to your point just now, Laura, about I think it's really crucial to think about the audience at each funnel stage as well. For consideration, never underestimate the power of the influencer, not just the buyer. So influencers are often from other departments. It might be HR, it might be IT, it's probably sales as well. It depends on your offering. So what we'll do is always recommend creating content that speaks to those influencers as well as direct to the buyer. And then just taking that thought one stage further, that means having multi-authored assets, because as we said a few minutes ago, people like to hear from their peers. So HR to HR, IT to IT, and so on.
Yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense. And actually, I was on a previous LinkedIn Live, I was comparing the influencer as being as good as a referral. We all want referrals in our sales and marketing. We know that referrals are really, really powerful. You're much more likely to close quicker, and so on. Why not build a relationship through content, through LinkedIn, with somebody who is your peer who will refer you in? It's like a manufactured referral, much more in your hands, actually, so to speak. But you make such a good point, and it's so vital that in ABM campaigns, you know, if you're you're working, you're trying to sell a SaaS platform, then your IT stakeholders are going to be really important. They're going to want to know about the security of it, and so on. But then when it comes to HR, they might be wanting to bring that in for their employees, and they're clearly going to have very different needs. So I know that's basic ABM, but it's about whether you're actually feeding that right through to who you connect with on LinkedIn and who posts about what to get it in front of that particular subsector of your audience.
Yeah, and I think, you know, from experience as well, it's a part of the ABM puzzle that's quite often overlooked. So it's definitely worth raising it on this call, on this LinkedIn Live today. We've spoken a little bit about ROI, but through the guise of an ROI calculator, which is, you know, an awesome tool. And if anyone would like one, have a chat with us, because we've done quite a few of them, so we know the mechanics behind the scenes. But poor marketers, we're always with showing ROI, and it's notoriously difficult. I can almost hear the collective sigh across the LinkedIn audience here. But it is notoriously difficult to attribute sales directly to specific campaigns, because you've got multiple factors influencing buyer behavior. You've got on and offline activities happening. Some of it's digital, some of it might be in-person events. So how on earth do you get an ROI on all of that? It's not always clear what efforts are providing the most impact. Yeah. But cautionary tale, not having this detail can leave you feeling quite exposed. You can have your budgets cut next year. Difficult questions to answer. But the beauty of running an ABM campaign via LinkedIn is that it provides a complete digital trail, which means that when a sale converts, you can use that deal value that your friendly salesperson will give you in order to very easily calculate the ROI on your campaign, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And just to put a little bit of sort of practicality around how that works, one thing that you can do is take all of the first degree connections at your target account and have them as part of your CRM. So you know that those people are more likely to have viewed the posts. In fact, the analytics on your post can tell you which companies has viewed each post the most. And so you can very easily connect the content viewing with that particular first degree connection. People outside of your first degree can see your post when the algorithm picks it up, but the majority of the time you're going to know it's those connections from that target account. And so having those in the CRM with a source that it's come from your ABM campaign means that, first of all, you're accessing that data to your sales teams. Your sales teams can then connect with them as well. Now, we know that if you've connected colleagues, maybe more senior colleagues, maybe, you know, like your CEO, but also subject matter experts, and they're putting the content out, you're kind of warming those leads up for sales. So having that accessible to your sales team in the CRM, they can obviously contact them through whatever means, calling, email, as well as LinkedIn. But being able to show that their journey has come through the content and through the LinkedIn means that when deals are closed, you're able to measure that up. Now, we also, when you're adding in a content and LinkedIn layer, and you look at, you've got the same sales team as you had before, but you've been able to build more pipeline. So even if you haven't yet closed that deal that you're following through from that source, just being able to see that more is coming into the pipeline is another metric that is well worth looking at. Particularly if what you're doing is sort of in addition to the other things that you've done, and you haven't fundamentally changed all of your salespeople and things like that. So I would definitely say, if you're able to create that source code and be able to compare it against other deals, not only can you watch it go through the pipeline, but you can watch how quickly it goes through the pipeline. It should mean that your deals close quicker because they're connected to so many people within your team. Then those nudges and front of mind awareness helps your salespeople to keep pushing the deal further on. And of course, if you've got peer-to-peer connections, you might just get that level of honesty and help, that sort of referral thing that you were talking about before, Fiona, being able to go back in and say, hey, what did we ever do about this, and really keep that deal going internally. And we've certainly seen, haven't we, that when you're measuring through the CRM, it becomes a lot stronger in terms of metrics. So I would absolutely be recommending getting your LinkedIn connections into your CRM and being able to watch those stats as you go. And we've actually got an infographic of sorts that we can send that really shows that content journey through to deals. And I know that with clients that have only added content and a LinkedIn program, they've been able to see things like trebling their pipeline value. It's really so powerful. And we've worked with content for a very long time, and I think it's just really great that we've got this digital trail now that it's all about using it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that we're drawing to an end, and ROI on how we measure it feels like a good place to end things. So I'd like to thank everybody that's watching, but I'd like to most of all thank you, Fiona, for bringing your wisdom and your experience to the fascinating topic of ABM and how we can really help to get those deals through the funnel and out into income.
You too, Laura. Thank you.
Bye for now. Bye bye.
Thank you.